begin working with service providers to get high-speed internet to underserviced residents. 12.1 million is a good start. Getting all the underserviced county residents high speed is estimated to be about $168 million. So we're kind of short. Norfolk County and Lambton County also got some money from the government for this project as well. And SWIFT is evaluating the proposals for all three counties. And hopefully they'll have some decisions made on service providers and areas to service by the end of the calendar year. RideWell ride sharing started running beginning of October, and it allows residents the ability to book rides through the county to go door to door. It does not allow you to get dropped off in the city of Guelph. I've used it to get to the county admin center and home for meetings, and I also took it to the Elora Legion. That was a good spot to go to. Service worked very well. To get to downtown Guelph, you get dropped off at the Walmart at Woodlawn Road, and you take a city bus downtown. And the bus runs every 10 minutes, and the bus fare is $3. To get from my home in Arthur, it was $23 one way plus the bus fare. Fergus or Elora would be about $12 plus the bus fare. The hours of operation are 6 to 7, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday to Friday. So it's not set up as a late evening service to get from the Elora Legion. It's a 5-year pilot program. Solid Waste Service and County Council has approved a new collection service that begins in July of 2020, so we're about 8 months away, 10 months away. Organics will now be picked up in the urban and rural areas of the county, and that'll be on a weekly basis. And that's something I'm sure some of the councillors had heard about campaigning just over a year ago. Yellow garbage bags will be picked up bi-weekly countywide. And the reason the yellow bags are going to go to bi-weekly instead of weekly is because with the organics not going in your yellow bag, the odor issue should not be a problem anymore. And hopefully your volume of garbage will go down approximately 30% is the estimate from Solid Waste Services. Blue box and organics will still be picked up weekly. Another change with this contract is rural pickup for blue box, organics, and yellow bags will be on both sides of the township roads. Currently, township roads are only picked up on one side. So that's something that the people in the rural areas will be happy about. Also, with the new solid waste service contract, leaf and yard waste will be picked up by the county. So in 2020, it will be picked up in October and November since the contract starts in July. In 2021, it will be in May, June, October, and November. And along with another thing with this contract, with waste management, they're going to use compressed natural gas vehicles to pick up the waste. And the CNG fleet will produce 15% less greenhouse gases, 50% less nitrous oxide, and they'll be much quieter than the diesel trucks they have running around our roads right now. One last thing with solid waste, the hazardous waste depot is at the Elora transfer station for the month of November. So if you got hazardous waste, you can get it to the Elora transfer station through the month of November. And that's all I have for you.
Thank you very much.
Questions?
Great update, Councillor O'Neill. Questions for Councillor O'Neill? Councillor McWayne.
Thanks, Kelly. The current hours for the RideWell program, it's a 5-year project or a pilot, yep. But could the hours potentially change within that pilot time frame?
If they do change, it'll be towards the end of it. They don't really want to compete with the cab companies so much. I know they are, but if it does change, it will be later on in the year because of the budget or the amount of money they're getting from the government to run this pilot. It won't be till late in the year or late in the term that they'd be able to change the hours. That's what they're saying right now. Okay.
Councillor McCrae.
Thank you, Mayor Lynn. Councillor O'Neill, The RideWell program, is it easily accessible for people who do not have smartphones or computers?
Yes, you can phone a toll-free number to get access to, someone will pick up the phone and book it for you.
And is there a way to pay without having to do it online?
Not that that has been brought up a few times. It is by credit card only right now.
The reason I'm asking is I've been hearing that some seniors are having some challenges with trying to use the program because they're not computer literate. They're
Yep.
not familiar with doing online banking and transactions. So just wondering if that's going to be looked at closer.
I know they have had some concerns about the credit card. As far as booking it online, you can phone in and get it booked by a person for you. I'm not sure where they're going to go with the credit card issue.
Just to follow up on that, I'm looking for the 1-800 number so we can let people know what it is. But in the meantime, also, they didn't want they didn't want to have cash for this service, so that's why they're sticking the credit card. You can do the credit card payment over the phone though. So you can call you don't need the app, you can call the 1-800 number, use your credit card over the phone and book a ride. So.
I know there has been some issues with people that don't have a credit card or don't want to use a credit card as well. So I'm not sure what staff's going to do to mitigate that problem.
Yeah, and we knew that was going to be a bit of a challenge, but this is a pilot, and I think our Economic Development Committee and the manager in charge of this is tracking the challenges, and you'll see probably as this pilot rolls out, you'll see changes, not major changes because we can't change it because we got money for a certain program, but you will see potential improvement opportunities as they go through it. That is one that has been indicated as a challenge. The other one I'd add, and I've seen some Facebook posts on this, is you can't treat it just like a taxi service. If you want to ride in 10 minutes, you're going to have a hard time. So it's not, you don't call up and in 5 minutes your car is there. You have to book it a little bit in advance. It's a ride sharing program. So it's not to replicate taxi service. If you have to get somewhere and you have 5 minutes and you want a car at your house, you have to use taxis. It isn't to replicate that kind of thing. Councillor Kitchus?
Thank you, Mayor. Will there be a feedback for the RideWell, like from constituents on a regular basis?
Yeah, as soon as you have your ride, you get well, again, if you have a smartphone, you do get a message immediately asking you to rate it and make any comments.
Councillor Kitchus?
And will there be a report about that? Like
I know the staff is tracking that very closely because when I took it, they knew within minutes that I had made comments. As soon as I went to the meeting, they knew I'd made comments, so.
Is that when you were stuck at the Legion?
No.
Councillor McCray?
Thank you, Mayor Lynn. Councillor O'Neill, you mentioned that the blue box will be picking it up on both sides of township roads. Is that happening in July of 2020?
2020, correct, with the new contract. Yep.
Anything else from Councillor O'Neill? Okay, again, thank you very much for coming and responding to the questions, and we will see you on Thursday. Feel free to stick around. You did some good ads for the Legion tonight, Councillor O'Neill. So I won't repeat some of the things that Councillor O'Neill talked about in my Mayor's County Council report. We also aren't meeting until Thursday, so we're a week later. So I'll focus a little bit what's on the agenda versus what was approved because we haven't had it yet. What will be on the agenda is an update from the Canadian Mental Health Association, the CMHA, on the County's Here for Hope partnership. And this is a really exciting partnership, and the tagline is working together to promote life and prevent suicide. And just to let you know, there will be a Here for Hope event that will be held December 3rd in Centre Wellington at the Sportsplex. And more details will follow on that report. They are inviting schools across the county, and there's going to be an evening thing as well. But I'll leave that for an announcement that's going to be coming later on. But it's a really, really good partnership to do whatever we can to promote a healthy life here in the county and in Centre Wellington. I recently had an opportunity, and Councillor Arnott was part of it, to participate in the county solid waste facilities tour, which was really, really interesting. I had actually the opportunity to do some of the sorting of some of the garbage and recycling, which kind of fun. I can't believe how fast they can actually do it, the people that do it for a living, but I couldn't keep up. But what was interesting for me is that it's good to see that the county is moving ahead on some really exciting things when it comes to environmental, doing things that are positive for the environment. And just fresh off this recent federal election, when it seems like all the politicians are saying the right things and making lots of promises, it's good to see that the county is actually doing practical things that is resulting in things that are very, very good for the environment. And a couple of those things that come to mind for me is the Green Legacy program. Planted hundreds of thousands of trees over the last decade plus, or last about 20 years. And I know that the Warden's tree planting that was done in Centre Wellington just a couple weeks ago, we had a lot of Centre Wellington staff there as well. We had about 100 volunteers, and really, really good site in Fergus. And this is just one, I think it was the 17th year that they had this tree planting, and that's really, really exciting. And there's been some really good work done when it comes to planting trees all across the county. Councillor Arnott talked already about the county's recent decision to move to weekly organic pickup using the natural gas power instead of diesel trucks, so 50% less emissions than diesel, significantly reduced the organic matter, extending the life of the landfill site significantly. So that's, again, a very practical way that we're looking after the environment. The other thing that we had an opportunity to see was the pollinator habitat at the old Arthur dump. And this is where they took one of the village of Arthur used to have a dump. And the county, when the county took over, they planted grass and trees and stuff. But recently, in the last year, they've made it a pollinator habitat. So they have got a local a resident who just happens to be an expert, Jack, resident expert at this, and they've made a really, really amazing pollinator habitat from that whole site. And they have plans to copy that across the county at other former dump sites. So that's another really exciting thing that the county has done when it comes to the environment. Another thing that is really progressive, they've hired on a contract basis right now a full-time environmental sustainability staff. And this person is working with the different departments to reduce emissions, and they have a pretty substantial emissions reduction strategy in place. And this person is starting to get involved with the line departments to find ways that the county can reduce its carbon footprint. So again, a few areas where the county is progressively moving ahead to do what's environmentally right. So that's good to hear. Councillor updates. So we're gonna start with Councillor Kittredge. So Councillor Kittredge, it's good to remind everybody what our councillors are on. So Councillor Kittredge is on Safe Communities, Farm Safety, and the Nonprofit Housing Corp. Any updates from you today, Councillor Kittredge?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, part of Farm Safety, I was on the Safe Communities Day, October 10th. There were 8 schools and 300 students, and it was a big success of having all the children go through and instructing them on farm safety. Thanks.
And Councillor O'Neill. Well, Councillor O'Neill's on the Groves Hospital Board.
Dunsmore?
It's okay, at least you didn't say Preston.
Councillor Dunsmore, sorry, is on the Groves Hospital Board. Elora is on the Economic Development Task Force and on the Community Services Advisory Committee. What do you got for us today?
Well, the Community Social Services Committee, we met and talked about these, reviewed some information from the Sculpture Committee about the Jack R. McDonald sculpture and gave some recommendations and feedback from that. But everybody in that committee is excited because we received these great big binders this week of all the people that put in for community grants. And so we'll be spending the next 2 weeks going over those binders and reviewing those projects. And then at our next meeting, I believe on the 13th of November, we'll be making some decisions about the distribution of those funds. And it's nice to be able to see the great projects that are going on in the community and the ideas that some people have come up with, because some of them are quite new and quite different, and I'm quite excited about that. The hospital board met. I'm excited about, I get somewhat overwhelmed with the hospital board, with how much work is going on with that hospital, with the new hospital and managing the old hospital. And I'm really pleased with the quality of the people that we have on that board and the quality of people that we have working in our hospital. And so I'm very excited about the New Groves Hospital and look forward to having it open. So, and I'll leave economic development for Stephen.
Water Quality Management System Committee.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. The Water Quality Management System only meets every 3 months, so there was nothing this time around. In terms of healthy growth, we received a staff update on the draft urban design guidelines, their purpose and current status. Staff have been working with the draft version, fine-tuning it based on user experience. Committee members were asked to review the document and provide comments. GRCA attended our monthly general membership meeting and source protection meeting. Key action items, we discussed the proposed amendments to the Aggregate Resources Act that's aimed at reducing burdens on the aggregate industry while encouraging the environmental protection and public engagement. The proposed amendments are short on detail, particularly the potential effect of the proposed changes on water and natural resources. The board approves staff submitting feedback to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry expressing concerns about below water table aggregate applications as well as consultation requirements involving the general public, conservation authorities, and municipalities. We also reviewed the 2020 board meeting schedule, so we've approved our meeting schedule for next year. Under the source protection meeting, we also appointed Waylon Bomberry as a Six Nations of the Grand River representative on the Lake Erie Region Source Protection Committee. We also directed Lake Erie Region Source Protection staff to submit revised, updated Grand River Source Protection Plan to the Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, along with comments received from pre-consultation and public consultation, municipal councils, resolutions, Lake Erie Source Protection Committee, and Grand River Source Protection Authority. We did not include current info related to Centre Wellington, which we received earlier this month in this council. Some information items we received: our 2020 budget update, the general municipal levy apportionment. That means a 3.4% increase for Centre Wellington, and I believe that Dan is aware of that. Our cash and investment status for the month stands at $32,295,449. We also received a financial summary and also current watershed conditions. We also received 2 delegations. One was Stephanie DeGrandis, who discussed proposed amendments to the Aggregate Resources Act. She expressed concern about the lack of detail regarding the proposed changes, especially below water table aggregate applications, proposed self-filing for site plan amendments, eliminating license requirements for low-risk activities but no definition of low risk, no discussion of increased monitoring by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forests, and no increase in fees to help municipalities and counties. And then we also had Don McLean, representing the Hamilton 350 Committee for Action on Climate Change, who relayed the committee's concern about the proposed 10-kilometer Kirkwall-Hamilton natural gas line pipeline project, that they do not want to proceed. Approximately 400 meters of this pipeline would be within the GRCA's jurisdiction.
Thank you very much, Councillor McCray. Councillor Foster is on the Victoria Park Seniors Committee, the Healthy Growth Committee, and CW Hydro. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I brought a copy of the document Councillor McCray referred to. If anyone wishes to have a look, I have a copy here. I won't repeat everything he said about the Healthy Growth Committee. Seniors Committee, ongoing activities, very busy place, lots of excellent programming going on for our seniors. Centre Wellington Hydro, we have been updating our policies on governance. Recently, we've created various subcommittees to improve our governance, and that puts us in a good spot and right in line with best practices in the hydro industry. It's a very well-run utility, in my opinion. And I think, any questions, I'm happy to take them. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Foster. Councillor Van Leeuwen is on Economic Development, Heritage Centre Wellington, Communications Company, and Queen Street Medical. Councillor Van Leeuwen.
Thank you, and Council, we have, so we've met back in, October 3rd, Economic Development. We continue to work with our strategic plan. We're using that as our central piece. Speaking mostly about our CIP programs, where we're heading, a lot of discussion about employment lands, different things like that, and also going forward with just different land reviews and how to encourage also underutilized lands and that for people to develop their lands they currently have. Unfortunately, also for Heritage Centre Wellington, the last meeting I was out of the country on business, but they continue to review applications. We did see some come through council where they're constantly looking at if there's a garage demolition. They'll look at what the garage doors look like. Trying to ensure that any developments in a historic area or have a character to them, that we continue to watch those pieces. And council does have the privilege of seeing that come forward all the time for building other demolitions or building renovations. So you can see the work of Heritage. So they continue to do their work faithfully. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Van Leeuwen. Councillor McElwain is on the Groves Hospital Board, Laura BIA, and the Doctors Recruitment Committees. Councillor McElwain?
The Alora VIA have asked me to bring forward a document that I'll pass out here. Basically, they are asking if council would consider putting a lookout on at the Laura Gorge over there for a public view of the Tooth of Time. It's
Sorry, just to stop you at a point of order. This is new business, and I don't think.
oh, it's just a report from the VIA. That's what you asked for, was it not?
If they're making a request, it's out of order.
If it's a request, it's not in.
It's-
It's not in order.
Okay. Then it's not a request, it's a letter from the VIA to council, and you can do with it what you wish.
This is from the BAA, or is it from Mr. Van Vliet?
Well, Marty signed it. Marty signed it as the chair of beautification, but the VIA have voted on this request.
Okay, so just the challenge is this is the first time we've seen this.
Budget. They'll be invited to, they come to budget.
Okay, that's a good
Time to
point.
make that
So
request.
during the budget, when they
And
come,
or community services. is
there's
better.
two opportunities. One, going to community services with this request, or the second one is going to budget with this request when they come with their Elora BAA budget. Okay. Anything else from BAA? Any other updates? Okay. Thank you, councillors. We have, the next item is the report from Committee of the Whole. Question? Councillor Kittrus?
This piece of paper, is this something from the BIA? Okay.
Report from the Committee of the Whole, October 21st, 2019.
You have to do the confirmation of the agenda.
Oh, right. Section 7, which I completely forgot, we have a recommendation that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington confirm the agenda for its meeting held October 28, 2019. Mover for that recommendation? Councillor Van Leeuwen, seconded by Councillor McCray. All in favor? And that's carried. We have a report from a Committee of the Whole, and again, we're pulling out item 3, so we'll vote on that separately. Recommendation that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington approve Item 3, from the report of the Committee of the Whole dated October 21st, 2019, as circulated. Mover for that recommendation. Councillor McElwain, seconded by Councillor Van Leeuwen. All in favor? And that's carried. I have a recommendation that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington approve the remainder of the report from the Committee of the Whole dated October 21st, 2019, as circulated. Mover, Councillor Dunsmore, seconded by Councillor McCray. All in favor? And that's carried. No delegations today. We have a consideration of a report, a request for a meeting of our MPP and Speaker of the House, Mr. Arnott, to get a meeting with the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks. Report from Andy.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. This is a very short report just with regards to a former request to our MPP, Ted Arnott, with regards to requesting a meeting with the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks in following up with our meeting with the Parliamentary Assistant at AMO in August. As Council is aware, the moratorium for commercial water bottling is January 1st, 2020. So we want to have a meeting with the Minister to discuss that moratorium further. And as per Council's previous recommendations, I'm looking to extend that moratorium for Centre Wellington till January 1st, 2023.
Any questions about that? I think this is the sixth meeting that we've had with ministers of I guess the ministry has changed names a couple times, but I think this is just another opportunity for us to follow through with our direction in the strategic plan to continue to lobby the provincial government. I have a recommendation that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington authorizes the mayor to formally request our Member of Parliament, Ted Arnott, to pursue a meeting with the Minister and/or Deputy Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks to discuss the long-term protection of the Township's water supply and the provincial commercial water bottling moratorium, which expires January the 1st, 2020. Mover for that recommendation. Councillor McCray, seconded by Councillor Foster. All in favor? And that's carried. 10.2, Community Culture Recreation Stream Grant, and turn things over to our Managing Director of Community Services, Pat. Welcome, Pat.
So I come with good news. The government has released an Investing in Canada infrastructure program, short form ICIP, Culture and Recreation Stream, Rehabilitation and Renovation Funding Stream, and it's a cost-sharing infrastructure program. There's funding coming from the federal government, the provincial government, and the applicant in our case, which would be the Township of Centre Wellington. There's approximately $470 million of federal funding and $320 million of provincial funding that's going to be available for this program. And successful projects will have until 2027 to be completed. So staff have reviewed the guidelines and information of the fund and identified the Elora Community Centre as a priority for this application funding, as it aligns with many of the objectives of this grant. So one of the objectives is it promotes good asset management, and the Elora Community Centre is identified as a high priority in the asset management plan, and it's also identified in the Parks and Rec Culture Master Plan as a facility that needs renovated to extend its life cycle. It meets community and user needs, or service gap. That's another objective of the program. And the Parks and Recreation and Culture Master Plan and Council Strategic Plan both identify the need for programming for seniors in Elora, as well as providing more programs for youth and family recreation in Elora. And also the Parks and Rec Culture Master Plan talks about growth and the need to continue to have this ice surface available in Centre Wellington in the future. An objective is to foster greater accessibility. The Elora Community Centre does not meet accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, and we've been working on a plan for that to improve accessibility. And with this funding, we see a plan that would actually make the ECC completely accessible, including the entrance, the doors, washrooms, the viewing area, dressing rooms, and access to the ice for sports like sledge hockey or sledges for public skating. It represents good value for money is another objective. And the Parks, Recreation and Culture Master Plan identifies this facility as a need in our community. The renovation would look at the hall and converting that space for sports, recreation activities, as well as a community hall, and also build on a new multi-purpose space that could be created for seniors, youth, family, and recreation and leisure activities. So in order for us to cost out and begin plans for this project, staff are already working on a concept for accessibility in 2019. So we've taken that planning an extra step in concept only and included the entire renovation so that we could meet the accessibility and programming needs and future growth of this facility to try and cost it out. Most importantly, the plans is to modernize and replace this aging infrastructure in this facility, which will lessen the burden over the next decade to address life cycle needs in this facility. The inclusion of an emergency generator as part of this renovation will also make this building accessible and have backup generator in power outages, which will allow this to be a significant emergency shelter for this community. The hope is to include new solar panels on the roof so that we can reduce the hydro operating costs and reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from this facility. And if anybody doesn't know, arenas like to use a lot of electricity, so this will be really helpful for that facility. This report provides a proposed project scope of work. It's in detail in your council report. The timing for this project, we would like to propose, if the funding were successful, we would hear about that in the spring of 2020, and construction would begin spring of 2021 with a goal of completing by fall 2022. The cost is under review right now, but we anticipate it estimating in at $4.5 to $5 million. And if the project were a total of $5 million, we'll have to get Dan to make sure I do my math right, our portion would be $1,333,500. Available in the 2021 and 2022 10-year capital forecast is just slightly more than that amount, and that was to repair the ECC floor, ice pad equipment, the entire ice arena concrete was coming out, and boards and glass. So that is a significant project, and that is already in the 2021 capital forecast, as well as a roof replacement over the hall. So that is where that funding is coming from. So we would have $1,345,000 to contribute to this project. So it's really come at a good time because we're about to embark on one of the most expensive pieces of life cycle rehabilitation at that facility, which is the arena ice floor. And this means that it has to get done in 2021. It's on its final life, and it will probably stop producing ice within the next couple of seasons. So we absolutely want to do this in 2021, start this project if the grant is successful. Any financial implications for the success of this grant would be presented to Council for approval for future commitment of funding. At this stage, staff are looking for Council to endorse the application for this project. The request for funding will exceed the available funds for this grant. So don't kid yourself, there's a lot of money out there, but these kinds of grants for recreation and culture come very far and few between from the government, so every municipality in Ontario will be applying. There will be a competition for this funding. So there's no guarantees, but we really would like to get this application in. It's a strong application, we feel, that meets this grant, and we would like your approval for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pat. So just a bit of a recap. So if we're successful in this and we recognize that there's a competition, over 73% of the funds would be coming from either the federal government or the provincial government. That's correct.
That's correct. So for every 26 cents we spend, they spend the rest of that dollar. Correct.
And so we'd be on the hook for the 1.3 plus for this project. Is there anything in the work that's done here that is outside of what we wanted to do already within our capital forecast for this facility?
Yes, so we were about to embark on a new facility condition assessment in the beginning of 2020, which would have highlighted specifically the latest things that need to be done for life cycle planning. The 2007 facility condition assessment had a lot of items highlighted which still have not been done. The idea of bringing the recreation programs to Elora and use the Elora Community Centre is coming from the Parks Rec Culture Master Plan as well as Council's plan. So the idea of taking the hall, raising the roof, expanding the size so that it could be used for pickleball, a half-court basketball game, a volleyball game, badminton, dancing, square dancing, all sorts of multi-purpose leisure and recreation activities is a new concept. However, it's not new as an idea for the Elora Community Centre. Does that answer?
Yeah, it does. Questions from council? Councillor Kitchen?
Thank you, Mayor. We were going to assess this in the future. So who's doing this plan and this, like, is that done by staff that's going to be making this proposal? We don't need any consultants to put this together, or can you explain how that's being done?
So when we learned of the grant, we did ask a consultant, an architect, to come in and provide us with current drawings. Staff who have worked at that facility for many years have helped us identify how we could expand this. This is just a very high-level concept plan for us to price out what the construction could cost. Our next steps, if we're successful, will be to take that concept plan, hire a consultant, an architect, to take us from design through to final construction to ribbon cutting. And part of that work is community consultation. We have to reach out to all of our stakeholders that use that facility, the public, council, and everyone who would have a stake in this building to make sure that the concept plan, before it goes to construction drawings, is what everybody wants and meets the needs of the future Elora. So for the purpose of this grant, we were working on accessibility, and so this just kind of expanded that into what would a really full accessible building look like, as well as additional recreation programming. We were already using our consulting money in 2019 to look at the accessibility piece. So I'm not sure if I answered that, everything you wanted with that question. Okay.
Councillor Kitchen, follow up?
So from your explanation, we will require, if we were be successful in this, we would require another consultant to do a full-scale plan. Is that correct?
It would be a full-scale building construction drawing plan. In that work, they would consult with components of the building, but it is not going to be another master plan or consultation on what the programming needs are for the community. We've done that with the master plan. So yes, an architect consultant along with engineers would be required as part of this project.
Councillor Kitchen?
So is any part of the funding from the federal and the provincial allocated to that, or will that be something that we have to do?
The consulting that we've done to date is not applicable. When we receive the grant and we're successful, all consulting from that point on is included in part of the fees of this project. It does not have to be shovel-ready, construction-ready. You can I would consider it 0 to 25% ready to build, and that's okay, because some projects will take until 2027 to complete. This does not have to be shovel-ready project.
Councillor Foster?
Thanks, Kelly. Pat, we had been looking at working with that consortium of the rugby, lacrosse, and soccer clubs with the potential of putting turf on that facility and not having to dig it up and repair it. Is there any report on that? Has anything been taking place?
That group has been meeting with myself and Matt Tucker, who is our manager of facility and operations, monthly. And we are working on what is the first step, which is in the master plan and also in the 2020 budget, which is a feasibility study for an indoor turf facility. It's premature to ask for that in this grant at this time because we haven't addressed and confirmed the need the cost and other items for an indoor turf facility in this community yet. So that is why we didn't add it to this. However, we could not put turf on that arena without the plan to build another ice pad, because this community needs 2.6 ice pads to meet the needs now, and within 10 years needs 3.2 ice pads. So we can't eliminate an ice pad for a turf facility. However, I know that Matt Tucker is here if you have any questions. The concept that we've come up with for the design would be to easily add on to that Elora Community Center, where the ballpark currently exists. That could be an indoor turf facility or a second ice pad in the future. So the concept plan looks at a way that it would all be one continuous lobby, dressing rooms back to back, with the opportunity for another facility attached, whatever that ends up being.
Anything else from council? Okay, I'll read the recommendation that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington endorse the renovation project for the Elora Community Centre as part of an application for the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, ICIP, Culture and Recreation Stream Rehabilitation Revenue Intake, for funding to rehabilitate and renovate the Elora Community Centre to improve accessibility, life cycle planning, energy efficiency, expand programming opportunities for seniors, youth, and family, and improve the facility as an emergency shelter for Elora. And that the council directs staff to report to council through the 2021 capital budget process on the township's share of costs should the application for funding be successful. I move for that recommendation. Councillor McElwain, second by Councillor Dunsmore. All in favor? And that is carried. Thanks, Pat. No information items at this point. Section 12 is our bylaws, and I have a recommendation that the bylaws 2019-58 through 2019-61 be read a first, second, and third time and passed and signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed. Move for that recommendation. Councillor Van Leeuwen, seconded by Councillor Dunsmore. All in favor? And that's carried. And I have a confirmatory bylaw to confirm the actions of council, that the bylaws 2019-62 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held October 28, 2019 be introduced a first, second, and third time and pass in open council. Move for that recommendation. Councillor Dunsmore, second by Councillor Van Leeuwen. All in favor? And that's carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Kittrus, seconded by Councillor Van Leeuwen. All in favor? And we are adjourned. Have a good rest of the night.